If there's one thing everybody knows, it's nursing school involves a lot of studying and a lot of note taking. Because of that, it's super important that you learn how to efficiently study and take notes that maximize the effectiveness of your study time. So if that's something that sounds interesting to you, make sure to stick around. This is going to be week 1 of a 2-week series that's going to talk about tips for studying and taking notes in nursing and nurse practitioner school. Today's video is going to be all about taking notes. Hello again, guys. If this is the first time we're meeting, I'm Liz. I'm a pediatric nurse, a new grad from a family nurse practitioner program, and this channel is all about documenting my career and educational journey. I've somehow survived 2 rounds of nursing school. That's why in this video, I want to share some tips with you that I've learned along the way that probably would have been effective if I knew them in the very beginning of nursing school round 1, rather than obtaining them throughout the way, mostly towards the end of my career. So in today's video, we're going to talk about how to take notes from a textbook or a journal article, basically gain information from your reading assignments. Then we'll talk about how to take notes on a lecture, usually where they provide you with a PowerPoint. And finally, we'll wrap up with some of my favorite tricks, tips, whatever, that I like to use to emphasize my notes and help me keep my attention to it so I don't get distracted and paying attention to something totally random and totally lose my focus. Okay, so first, let's look at taking notes from reading assignments. This is going to be something you really need to know how to do if you're in nurse practitioner school, because like I've said in other videos, they really kind of just give you this huge long reading list and then say, go learn it, you need to know it. In undergrad, I feel like they said read it, but I'll be honest, I didn't do most of my readings. I just went off of the lecture notes. But in grad school, you absolutely have to do it. And if you're somebody that learns well by reading, this is gonna really be helpful for you. So the basic thing with this is you're just gonna want to identify the objectives from the lesson plan. Nursing school is super good about giving you definitive objectives in the module. So it'll say, for example, in this module, you need to learn the anti-infectives, X, Y, and Z, what their mechanism of action is, what their side effects are, and their contraindications. That chapter is going to contain a lot more information than just what they want you to know, so just ignore that. Every module you receive in nursing school should have these objectives laid out in them. If not, ask your teacher, but honestly, I've never seen a nursing program that didn't have in their modules a list of objectives at the very front of that module. When you sit down to do your reading assignment, look at the objectives of the module, write all of them down. I usually write them on different pieces of paper if you're writing on paper, and if it's on your computer, it doesn't matter because then you can just jump all over. But write them all down so that you can reference them and look at them, read them over a couple of times so you really understand what you're getting at. Sorry about Avery, she doesn't really want to take a nap. And that way, when you're going through your readings, you'll be able to look back and be like, is this something that I need to know? Or is this just fluff that I can kind of forget and move past? When you open your book or the journal article, whatever it is, skim around for the topics that you know you need to look for. It'll be in the headings or the subheadings. When you see one that, oh, yeah, I need to know that, read it and then write it down, write your notes down under the objective that you wrote down on your paper. That way, not only is the objective there, but the information you need to know pertaining to that objective is right above it. So why is this helpful? Your textbook for this module may just say, read chapter 34. Well, chapter 34 happens to be like 60 pages, and you don't need to know everything that's in that 60 pages. You just need to know the facts that they really want you to get out of it. So this is gonna help you narrow down your focus, look for the headings you need to grab onto, read that information, gain that, and then, like I said, ditch the rest of the information. Also, try not to get caught up on the tiny, minute details. Textbooks a lot of the times really love to give you these super nitty-gritty stuff. You're not someone who needs to know every little tiny detail of everything. Get the general idea, and if you really need to know more detail, your teacher will probably tell you, and there's other ways to learn that, I think, rather than trying to absorb it all from a book. My second tip here for learning from your reading assignments would be split up the reading if you can. Now, I know this is challenging for a lot of people like myself, especially if you're type A, because you're like, no one's gonna take as good notes as I can. But for the sake of your sanity, if you have friends or a group of people that you trust and you're like, okay, I think you could take good notes, split it up with them. Honestly, guys, this I waited so long to do because like I said, I was like, you won't be able to take as good of notes as me. Well, when you are falling asleep on your book like this at 2 o'clock in the morning because you're trying to do it all yourself, you're not taking very good notes. So find a group if you can, undergrad or grad school nursing, I thought this was effective. Split that up and everybody takes notes and then you swap. But like I said, you want to find a group of people that's like, you know, not going to be like, oh yeah, man, I like took notes and it's like this on a sticky note. You know, that's not what you're going for. You know what I mean. Let me know down in the comments, say yes, I would do it, or no, I would not. Would you split up your readings with someone else? Let me know. I always like to know that kind of stuff because I'm like, maybe other people are not as neurotic as I am, but I have a feeling some of you are. So how do I take my notes? I usually, if I'm doing it from a reading in undergrad, I did it all on paper, and then because I was taking them for myself, and like I said, I didn't really read a lot in undergrad. Shh. And in grad school, I took them on a computer, I took them on Evernote. That way I could just really quickly make a PDF at the end and launch it off to my friends who were doing the other reading assignments. But if you're more of a person that likes to write things down, I totally get that. And sometimes I would do that because I just needed to write it to get it. Okay, let's move on to taking notes from a lecture. So this is going to be, I think, largely geared toward undergrad nursing, as I have found that in my family nurse practitioner program, they did not give nearly as many lectures, but I always had lectures in undergrad. This is something that took me a really long time to figure out. So the first thing you're gonna wanna do is look over the lectures before class. And I remember before I started doing this, I was like, those people are nerds who do that. No, they're just like plan headers and they don't wanna double do their work later on. So what I mean by that is you're gonna go through your lecture, look at all the things that they've already written down for you so that you don't accidentally write it down again, because you don't necessarily know real quick while you're flipping through and they're up there talking, you don't know, like if you said, you know, this can cause photosensitivity, don't be in the light. You're frantically writing like, oh, photosensitivity, light. And they might have already written it down for you, but you didn't know that because you haven't looked over your notes yet. So just real quick, skim through it and you'll be a little bit more familiar with the topic. But like I said, you won't double write things. And that saved me a lot of time because, man, I feel like half the time I would be looking through my notes and I was like, oh, she wrote that for me already. And I wrote it again and totally missed whatever she was saying while I was frantically writing it. Print out your PowerPoints if they give them to you. Most nursing school, I feel like, is pretty good at, they give you some PowerPoints to reference. I printed mine at like a worksheet, like so one above each other, 2 on a page, which seems really big, but a lot of times your teachers will give you cool diagrams or things in the fonts like itty bitty. And I used to do 6 to a page, and then you were like, it was impossible to read. So I found 2 to a page worked pretty well, and it gave you plenty of room to write as many notes as you wanted then, later, if you were referencing the book. Anything, you had plenty of room and you never felt cramped, because that's always the worst when you're trying to write everything in and then you're like writing off the page and there's no more room because you wanted to condense everything onto your 6 slides or whatever. You can also now take notes on top of your PowerPoints on an iPad, like if you turn them into a PDF, which I think is super awesome. So that's another option for you if you don't want to print them out and you have access to a tablet. Is just make them a PDF and then you can like write on top of them, which is so cool. That did not exist when I was in school. And the final option is ask your teacher if they're okay with you recording it. Some apps, like if you are doing your notes on a tablet, GoodNotes and Notability both have a record function where you can record what the teacher's saying. That way, if you miss some of it, you can like go back and replay it as you're writing your notes. Or if you just have your phone, you could always just put a voice recorder on. But make sure to ask your teacher if this is okay. Some schools have a policy against it, and some teachers might just feel uncomfortable, and that's totally within their own right. But always ask, and if they say yes, then that could be a really cool way to kind of have that at your fingertips. You can listen to it later if you want, or if you just need to go back and clarify part of the lecture, that would be helpful. And finally, my favorite tips for helping me pay attention to my notes, because man, does my mind wander. Color. Color is how I organize, 1, my life, but 2, my notes, and keeps me interested in them, so I'm not just looking at this page of black, because then I will not study it. It helps me break up the information as well and tells me, hey, this is important. So I'll go over real quick what colors I use and how I use them. Obviously, you do whatever you want. You'll come up with your own system, but I highly encourage you to use some color to break things up. And it's just like interesting. It gives you something to do. So blue, I use blue for my main headings. So it kind of is like the introduction to a new chunk of information or chapter or new thing. I also use it for lab value ranges. So pretty much anything with a number. If I need to, like INR 2 to 3, or your hemoglobin should be this to this, anything with a number, usually outline instead of like highlighting like this, I would outline in blue. Pink, hot pink is for topics. Pneumonia, broken leg, heart attack, I'll get pink because they're not the subheading, which would be like, you know, horrible things that happen to people. And then that would be in blue. And then in pink, you would have pneumonia, broken leg, and heart attack. Can you tell how interesting my lectures would be if I was a teacher? Bad things that happen to people. That would be the topic. They're like, what is this? What is happening? Okay, or tangent over. Orange. Orange is subheading. So if you are looking at, say, broken leg, we would do like compound fracture, green stick fracture, you know, what other else types of fractures there are. My brain's not working, but you know what I mean. It would be like the subheadings, so that way you can differentiate. Or if you're looking at a particular medicine, say you're looking at penicillin. Penicillin would be in pink, and then in orange you would have side effects, contraindications, mode of action, that type of thing. And finally, yellow. Yellow is key terms and vocab, or facts that I just think are random and important. And I will link below some of my favorite highlighters that I love. I have a lot of them because I like I said, I get bored and I like to color. And I go back over my notes after the class or after I've taken them, and that is when I highlight, okay? So guys, so don't worry about highlighting your initial way through. After the lecture is over, after you've taken your notes, go back and then do all your highlighting, and that not only helps you remember the information more, but allows you to take better notes because you're not like frantically being one of those people who's like, oh my gosh, with all my pens. Don't be that person. A second thing that I wish existed when I was in school is a tablet. If you have the option of having a tablet, go for that, because that way you can import pictures, you can pull graphs, you can pull charts, all sorts of things directly into your notes, which is so cool. You can do like a dual view where you have your textbook on this side and your notes on this side, and you would just pull the textbook information right into the notes, which is really neat. That's a cool way to take notes if you're more of a visual learner. But really, the important thing is just take whatever notes that work for you and that you will use, because that's the biggest thing. You don't want to take notes and then never look at them again. So when you're taking notes, just do it in whatever way you know you'll go back and look at them, because that's the point, after all, is to have something to reference back on and study from. Okay, so question of the day is, what is your favorite way to study? Do you like to write it down? Do you like to type it on the computer? Do you like to take it on your app on your tablet? Let me know down in the comments, what is your favorite way to take notes? And that's it for today, guys. Again, I'm Liz. If you guys are new, welcome. If you are into videos like this, I usually do 2 to 3 videos a week. One's nursing related like this, another one's a vlog with my adventures of NP school and being a nurse. If you're into that, make sure to subscribe and hit the little bell so you're always notified of new videos. You can check out my Instagram here. I do adventures throughout my week that I put up on there. And make sure to tune in next week for part 2, which is going to be all about how I study in nursing and NP school. All right, guys, have a great week. I'll see you later. Bye.